Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari Yashoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari Yashoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Banachari Yamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Om Jnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Guru Nityam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Sapadantikam Vande Aham Shri Guru Shri Jutapadakamalang Shri Gurun Vaishnavangshta Shri Rupang Sagrajatang Sahagana Raghunatanitang Tang Sajivang Sadvaitang Sa Avadhutang Parajana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitangscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Huripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanang Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay, brief, please.
Hare Krishna. It's our extremely great fortune to have the association of His Grace Dayananda Prabhu. So Dayananda Prabhu met Srila Prabhupada and got introduced to Krishna consciousness when most of us were not even born. That was the year of 1967. In 1966, Srila Prabhupada started ISKCON Society at New York. And after that, in December of 1966, he flew to San Francisco. That was the first flight which Srila Prabhupada ever set from New York to San Francisco. And then there was that Avalon Ballroom program, and immediately after that, Prabhuji was at Los Angeles. He had come to San Francisco, and then he got introduced to the movement. In February of 1967, he met Srila Prabhupada, and at the end of February, he got initiated. In March, he got married. And then he was, because Prabhupada was personally training all the disciples there, so he was there in that group, intimate group, which we hear about in the San Francisco, the early days. And then Prabhupada went back to New York, has a heart attack, came back to San Francisco, and then left to India. And while leaving to India, Prabhupada expressed the desire that, we should start a center at Los Angeles. So because Prabhuji was from Los Angeles, so he took it to his heart. He went back, and Srila Prabhupada was in India, he was writing letters. And Prabhupada was guiding through letter. He started the center in Los Angeles. And this is a very historical event because as time passed, the Los Angeles became the center of all activities at the West Coast. It became the headquarters there. And later on, it became a kind of global headquarters because Prabhupada's apartment was there, Prabhupada was meeting devotees there. And Prabhupada set the ideal standard for the morning program, Bhagavatam class, the deity worship, and how devotees should be engaged throughout the day at Los Angeles. And then Prabhupada was calling the leaders from all over the world to come to Los Angeles, be with him, learn how to manage everything, and then go back in their respective centers and apply. So Prabhuji was there in that period from 1967, 68 onward till 71. Then he went to London. He was the president at London for 1 year. Then he, just quoting, and then he was given the charge for Dallas Gurukul, and then he took lead there. So he has been constantly engaged in serving Prabhupada and the mission for last so many years, more than our lifetimes.
Other places.
And now he has written this wonderful book, which Prabhuji will also speak about. This is a very beautiful book. The Environmental Solutions. So this is a wonderful book which connects the modern youth, especially the Western youth, from where they are in the, the society of overconsumption, and society of sense gratification, and takes them on the path of Krishna consciousness by explaining very scientifically how a practice of Krishna consciousness, all the problems of the world can be solved. Environmental problem, ecological problem, mental problem. So this is a bridge preaching, but the bridge is very short. Immediately you get to the pure thing. So this is a very extensive work which he has done in the service of Srila Prabhupada, because as we were sharing yesterday that the preaching in West is going down compared to what it was in Srila Prabhupada times. So he has a great desire to attract the American youth to Krishna consciousness as it was in Srila Prabhupada times. And these books are very instrumental, very helpful in connecting to them and bringing them to Krishna consciousness. So he has come to India after many, many years. And Radheshyam Prabhu met him in Radha Gopinath Mandir and invited him here. And we are very grateful. Prabhuji just came for less than 24 hours. Evening he reached by around 5 or so. And now after the class, we'll have another session of hearing Prabhupada anecdotes and some questions with Prabhuji in his room. And after that, he'll be going back to Mumbai. So it's less than like 18 hours or something. And he took out his time and, came here to give us his valuable association. We're very grateful, very thankful to him. Let us welcome him at Shri Shri Radha Vrindavan Chandra Temple by once loudly chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Thank you.
I'm sorry Revati Pati took so much time. We have no time left for the class. Thank you very much. So sometimes it embarrasses me a little bit to receive this kind of praise. I think that I'm just a representative of that sort of early phase of the Krishna movement. But there are devotees like Bhakti Rupa Prabhu who are very advanced, sattvic devotees, who I think that we came to start things with a big bang, and Bhakti Rupa is here as a sattvic influence to maintain. So you have this nice temple here that was built. I think it's very new, huh? How many? 10 years, very new. But it's another thing to maintain for 100 years, 500 years, 1,000 years. So that's important, the sattvic, to maintain. Of course, devotees are always transcendental, so they're creating a temple for Krishna, and that's a transcendental activity. But maintaining is very important. Someone told me, in the West, the word responsibility is very important. But someone told me that in India, this word careless or careful, yes? This is an important word or no? I mean, you're not looking as though it is. But that the temple must be maintained as a responsible activity, or being careful to its maintenance. So I always thought that Bhakti Rupa Prabhu was that kind of person who has his wise counsel has been a source of stability to the GBC, to the Indian board of directors. I forget the name. What is that? ICC or something? What? Bureau. And his financial counsel has been a wonderful contribution to temple presidents, GBC, and other directors of ISKCON, especially here in India. And I would say also that during turbulent times, we had some turbulent times in ISKCON after Prabhupada left into the 80s. He left in 1977, so in the 80s, I think that Bhakti Rupa Prabhu was one of those sattvic influences that contributed to the stability of ISKCON continuing along with Gaur Govinda Maharaj. Narayanam namaskritya Narang Shaiva Narottamam Deving Sarasating Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraet Nashta Praishva Bhadreshu Nityang Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we have the Te cha Pitra Samadhishta Te cha Pitra Samadhishta Prajasarge Drita Rita Prajasarge Drita Rita Narayana Suro Jagmur Narayana Suro Jagmur Yatra Siddha Sapurvaja Yatra Siddha Svabhurvaja Te cha pitra samadhishta Praja sarge dhutat vrita Narayana saro jagmur Yatra siddhah sabpurvaja Te cha pitra samadhishta Praja sarge dhutavrata Narayana saro jagmur Yatra siddhah sapurvaja Ladies? These sons, the Savalashvas, Cha and Pitra by their father, Samadhishta being ordered, Praja Sarge in increasing progeny or population, Dhritavrta accepted vows, Narayana Sara, the holy lake named Narayana Saras, Jagmuh went to, Yatra where, Siddha perfected, Sapurvaja their older brothers who had previously gone there. So same thing is going to happen. In accordance with their father's order to beget children, the second group of sons, first group was the Haryashvas. So the second group of sons, these are the Shabalashvas, Haryashvas and Shabalashvas. Second group of sons also went to Narayana Saras, the same place where their brothers had previously attained perfection by following the instructions of Narada. Undertaking great vows of austerity, the Shabalashvas remained at that holy place. Purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Prajapati Daksha sent his second group of sons, 1,000 sons of Haryashvas, and again 1,000 of the Shabalashvas. Second group of sons to the same place where his previous sons had attained perfection. He did not hesitate to send his second group of sons to the same place, although they too might become victims of Narada's instruction. of course, victims is from his perspective. According to the Vedic culture, one should be trained in spiritual understanding as a brahmachari before entering household life to beget children. This is the Vedic system. Thus, Prajapati Daksha sent his second group of sons for cultural improvement, despite the risk that because of the instructions of Nara that they might become as intelligent as their older brothers. As a dutiful father, he did not hesitate to allow his sons to receive cultural instructions concerning the perfection of life. He depended upon them to choose whether to return back to home, back to Godhead, or to rot in this material world in various species of life. In all circumstances, the duty of the father is to give cultural education to the sons, who must later decide which way to go. Responsible fathers should not hinder their sons who are making cultural advancement in association with the Krishna consciousness movement. This is not a father's duty. The duty of a father is to give his son complete freedom to make his choice after becoming spiritually advanced by following the instructions of the spiritual master. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharani Nirvishesha Srinivani Paschatya Deshatara. So the first item that strikes me, according to Vedic culture, one should be trained in spiritual understanding as a brahmachari before entering household life. I used to know this verse, but I have to refer. So Narad said in the 7th canto, Srimad Bhagavatam, Shri Narad Uvacha Brahmachari Gurukule Vasan Danto Gurorhitam Acharan Dasavo Nicho Guror Surida Saurida. So this is an interesting So in that verse, he also says, Gurukule Vasan. Vasan means to, what do we say, Brijbasi. So Basa means to live in a place. Vasan means living. And Gurukule, in the Gurukul. So the Brahmachari, Gurukule Vasan. Narad said a student, Brahmachari, should practice completely controlling his senses. He should be submissive and should have an attitude of firm friendship with the spiritual master. With a great vow, the Brahmachari should live at the Gurukul only for the benefit of the Guru. So this is an important establishment, the Gurukul. Then Prabhupada says 3 times, he uses this word cultural 3 times. He says, first he said that Prajapati Daksha did not hesitate to allow his sons to receive cultural instructions concerning the perfection of life. And then he says, the duty of the father is to give cultural education to his sons. Then he says, fathers should not hinder their sons who are making cultural advancement in association with the Krishna consciousness movement. So this word culture is one of my favorite words in association with the Krishna consciousness movement. I had this marker in here, and now being an old man, I've forgotten why. Prabhupada says in a previous purport, just a few shlokas previous, that if one does not discuss what is important in life, one is put into darkness and must struggle for existence. What then is the benefit of his advancement in knowledge? The people of the West are seeing their students becoming degraded, despite gorgeous arrangements for university education. The Krishna consciousness movement, however, is trying to convert misguided, drug-addicted students to the service of Krishna and engage them in the best welfare activities for human society. So this idea, in my book, this is the book on environment. This is the big book version, and then there's the small book simplified version. These are tools. They're not meant for wide selling, so I'm not really here to sell them, but they're meant for tools for preachers. So I make this point here. Prabhupada says that we are saving the drug-addicted youth of the West. So this was 50 years ago. Now this global culture has spread everywhere. So European, American, Australian culture is now, we can no longer say Western culture. So I use the term modern global culture. So we find also drug-addicted youth, or at least drug experimentation in the universities in India also. So this kind of behavior is going on around the world. And when it comes to addiction, I say in my book that this overconsumption of nature's resources, which is also going on around the world, Europe, America. Of course, Europeans started this, Europeans, Americans being the same basically as Europeans. So the European idea was to sail around the world and exploit natural resources and bring them back to Europe. And then, with industrialization, with technology, all these ships and trains and everything could be improved to exploit more resources, to bring more resources. And then the rest of the world followed suit. Africa and Asia and South Asia followed suit. So what is this exploitation of resources? It's an addiction. Overconsumption, consumption, that's also an addiction, like drugs. Can you stop immediately? I want you to stop all electricity here. No, we are addicted to the use of electricity. How could it be stopped? We've constructed a culture, or a society at least, in which we are collectively addicted to the exploitation of nature without thinking about it. We're driving cars which use the oil extracted from the earth. Prabhupada discussed extracting oil from the earth. He said Hiranyaksha extracted the gold from the earth and caused it to fall into the Garbhodak ocean. And Varaha came to save the earth. Prabhupada said this extracting gold is like the modern extraction of oil. So we extract oil, we use it for electricity, for powering our automobiles. We're very proud of technological advancement, but ultimately what is that doing? It's destroying nature, it's feeding our addiction, and it's promoting our inclination towards sense gratification. This is a sense gratification society. So culture, as Prabhupada used this term 3 times. So I like the word culture. I use the word culture in this book because in the West, people are not at all inclined toward religion or spirituality. And the word spiritual means something different. Sometimes a person could be a spiritual person. They think themselves spiritual if they go to the theater instead of the cinema, if they go to art museums instead of going to parties. So I'm a spiritual person because parties are beneath me. I go to the art museum and other museums. So therefore, because I'm a sensitive person, so I avoid these use of the word spiritual and religion because there's a prejudice against these words. And in the West, especially, somewhat in India too, but not nearly as much. I once read a statistic that scientists in the West are 70% atheist agnostic. They don't believe in a higher power. 70% of scientists. In India, I read the reverse statistic, that only 30. So 70% of Indian scientists believe in a higher power. So India is not exactly like the West in that regard. Perhaps catching up though. So culture, I'm interested in presenting culture. And here Srila Prabhupada in his purport uses the word 3 times, culture. So what is that culture? Now in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, this word aitihya itiha means expert testimony. Aitihya is derived from itihasa, like itiha. Itiha means the history or tradition. It can also mean culture. So in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, this is rejected, but that means mundane culture. So just because we have a tradition doesn't make it spiritual. Sometimes Indians are very attached to tradition, and other cultures. America, not so much. But in India, people are very much attached to tradition. But if that tradition doesn't tie into spiritual culture, then according to Chaitanya Charitamrita, it's discarded. Another place, in one lecture, Prabhupada used the same word, aitihya. But there he connected it with the tradition of parampara. So if a culture is based on Vaishnava tradition, parampara, ultimately the Bhagavad Gita of Sri Krishna, then that is a valid culture, a valid tradition. So culture can be important. Not just important, it can be essential to link us with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. So, Revatiputra Prabhu, he said that I'm presenting something that can make society perfect. No, I'm not trying to make society perfect, because we are human beings, and there's always many people in a society that cannot become perfect. But if we have a society, if we have a culture that can raise hundreds of millions of people, if we have a sattvic culture that raises hundreds of millions of people, then some people who are not so inclined will become influenced. For example, if we have Rath Yatra festival, or some similar festival outside, in many temples throughout India, the deities are taken on procession outside in the public. So this gives a chance for people, maybe they'd never go to the mandir. They don't even care very much. But then they see the Rath Yatra and they're reminded about Sri Krishna, Vishnu, Narayana, Ram. So that's a reminder, a cultural reminder. It uplifts the entire culture. So this is the culture, the Vaishnava culture. There's another verse that I used to know that I Tasi karmani yudarani parigitani suribhi bruhitan shraddhananang lilaya dadhata kala. So this is from the initial part of the Bhagavatam, the questions by the sages. Is that right? Yes, that's right. Questions by the sages to Sutta Goswami, sages headed by Shonaka. His transcendental acts are magnificent and gracious, and learned sages like Narada sing of them. Please, therefore, speak to us who are eager to hear about the adventures he performs in his various incarnations. So Leela, what Prabhupada doesn't use that word Leela, but Lilaya, or Lilaya, what is it? Not Lilaya, Lilaya, by the Leelas. So this is Tritiya Vibhakti, no? So, Leela. This is a Leela culture. We like to think of it as the Bhagavata culture, the culture that's based on the Bhagavatam. But we also have to admit that there are many people who follow Ramayana and Mahabharata. But these are also Leelas, Krishna Leela. Regardless, Ramayana, Bhagavata, Mahabharata. This is a Leela culture. Leela and Nama and Rupa. Sri Murti. So, but in the public especially, of course we take the Murti, Sri Murti, into the public sometimes for procession. I went to Sri Rangam and I saw the deity there, and then they have a second deity that they take on procession outside. So in many mandirs throughout India, not just in our tradition. So our tradition is like all of the Vaishnava traditions. There are so many similarities. So we are worshipping the Leela and Nama especially. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu especially was a representative of ecstasy when chanting and when enjoying the Leelas. He specifically came to enjoy the mood of Radharani. So that's within the Leela, Radha Krishna Leela. So this is a Leela culture, Leela and Nama culture. So therefore I use in this book the word culture. And the book is about comparing the modern global culture, which is materialistic and which exploits nature. So I'm taking advantage of this point that the modern culture is based on greed, exploiting nature, taking from nature. And we learn in Bhagavad Gita, Yo bhunkte stena evasa. So this verse, stena, Krishna says in the 3rd chapter. Stena means thief. So if you're not offering, if you're not reciprocating with Vishnu, Krishna, Vishnu is called Yagya also. So yajna means to reciprocate. When we do arati, this is a reciprocation with Krishna. It establishes a relationship. We're making offerings of lights, of incense, of bathing and drying and flowers and chamara and fanning. All these are offerings to the Supreme. So this has been going on since time immemorial. In the Vedas we find. And in other societies as well. So this idea of reciprocating with the Supreme, it must be there. Otherwise, Krishna says, Yo bhunkte stena evasa. The one who enjoys without doing this is a thief. Jo, sa. Who does enjoy? Bhunkte, sa. Stena. He is a thief. So, this is the modern culture, stealing from Krishna. So they're stealing oil, then they say, oh, the sun is free, we'll get sunshine from the sun, that comes free to us. No, it's not free. There must be reciprocation for anything that's taken from the Supreme Lord or his agents, the suras, the demigods. I was going to say something, it slipped my mind. So this is I know I was going to tell the story. I have very little time, but I'm going to tell this story anyway, very quickly. Many devotees are familiar with this story. It has two parts. One is that Prabhupada was taking his morning walk, and at the time, he was talking about devotees become good citizens in the country. And so one of his disciples said, on the other side of this lake, this was in the United States, on the other side of this lake lives one of the richest men in the United States. He made his money from oil. So Prabhupada said, so what will you tell him when you see him? And then devotee said, well, we'll tell him that we are becoming good citizens. Prabhupada said, no, you tell him he is a thief. Yo bhunkte stena ivasa. So this was a nice principle that how could we possibly do such a thing? We couldn't even approach such a man. But Prabhupada was walking, and then I had the good fortune to witness the second one. He was walking on the Lotus building. Sometimes if he didn't feel like going out on his morning walk in Mayapur, he would walk around on the roof of the Lotus building. So he was walking, and Jayapataka Maharaj brought one man to meet Prabhupada. In those days, they called a wealthy man an industrialist. I think now they just use crorepati or something. That's a wealthy man. Although just having 1 crore is not very much these days. You have to have many to be real. So, industrialist. So this man was an industrialist, and Jayapataka Maharaj introduced him to Prabhupada. And Prabhupada said, oh, what is your business? The man said, well, I manufacture glass. Prabhupada said, how do you manufacture glass? So, from sand, from silicon, from sand, Swamiji. So Prabhupada says, and who owns the sand? And the man was a pious man, good man. He said, Bhagwan owns the sand. So Prabhupada said, so you are stealing from Bhagwan? So Prabhupada showed us how to do. First he gave the principle, you call this man a thief, and then he showed us how to do it. It requires some expertise. Yes, Prabhupada was the guru. The man came to see Prabhupada. He's the elder guru figure. He's Indian, that man is Indian. But so many things in Prabhupada's favor in order to make that exchange. Yes, but our business as preachers is to create that environment for us to call the Western culture, the modern global culture that exists in India and China and all over the world, those people are thieves and they are stealing from nature. And this is a wonderful opportunity because it's so obvious what's happening. As they are stealing, they are destroying nature. So this is a wonderful, in my opinion, a wonderful opportunity to preach that if we approach somebody and say, hey, you shouldn't behave like this, you enjoy your senses. Look at where you're heading. Well, this is very personal to somebody and they may not be able to understand, but if we say, look at this society, look at this culture of destruction based on greed and sense gratification, then maybe it will be easier for them to understand. Anyway, this is what I'm trying to present here. So, what's the alternative then? You have to accept Vaishnava culture. So, what is that special about Vaishnava culture? Well, first of all, you have to understand, make a comparison, which culture is more harmonious with nature. We can observe. You want to see everything. You want to see God. You're a scientist. You say you're a scientist, or you're influenced by science. So you must see everything. You must prove everything by seeing and experimenting. So just see which culture is more harmonious with nature. Well, obviously Vaishnava culture has been for thousands of years, and it still is, even though there's some infection from materialistic culture. Some, it's not so bad. It's not dying from COVID or anything, but it's still functioning nicely, harmonious with nature. So, then why might that be? It's because, this is as I'm saying here in the book, which I think that I'm trying to do it according to Prabhupada, the way I follow Prabhupada, believe that he would be pleased with. It's because this is the culture of Leela and Nama. The Vaishnava culture is the culture of Leela and Nama. So what? It's the culture of Leela and Nama. It's because modern global culture, the people are trying to get satisfaction and enjoyment from stealing from nature. They're trying to be satisfied through greed. Although in my book I use the word overconsumption. It's a polite word for greed. So on the Vaishnava side, Vaishnava culture, how do the people in general, how do the people remain satisfied without such exploitation? Yes, everyone consumes. Everyone has to eat, everyone has to cook food, so we use energy, we consume. But how do we keep consumption low? Because we are satisfied. In Bhagavat culture and Vaishnava culture, we are satisfied because we have Leela and Nama for enjoyment. Particularly the devotees. But for the culture in general, there's opportunity for satisfaction and enjoyment through art, architecture. Look at this, art. Brilliant. I love this art, which is we call in the West bas relief or bas relief, meaning that it comes out from the surface and outside. This Dhruva Maharaj, the story, Dhruva? No, not. Huh? Dhruva, both, yeah, Dhruva, I was right. I didn't see Prahlad. So Dhruva Maharaj I saw. And when I first became a devotee, I was impressed by the art. I thought, this is a culture. I thought, this is more than just, it's an entire culture. So we have all these paintings, and these are leelas. Many of the paintings and the art the sculpture we see, Leelas, even the Namas. We sing Jai Radha Madhava, Kunjabihari. So Kunjabihari is also a Leela. It's a Nama, but it represents Yashoda Nandana. So this is Yashoda. It shows the relationship with Krishna. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. So this is a long name, but it refers to a Leela, something Krishna is doing, one of Krishna's activities. So even the names are interconnected with the Leelas. Of course, Krishna is absolute. He's the same as his name, his Leela, Rupa. So Leela culture, it's very important. This Leela, the people can be satisfied and they can enjoy through the Leela. So what does that mean, people enjoy? It's because Krishna is enjoying his Leelas. And we have the opportunity to share that enjoyment with Krishna. If we are giving Krishna enjoyment, yajnanang japa yagyosmi. So that's a yajna. What does yajna mean? Yajna means to connect with the devatas or with the Supreme Vishnu, with Krishna. So what is the highest? Japa. So what does that mean, yajna? We are not just chanting so it can make advancement. I'm chanting Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Now I'm going to be promoted to the next level. This is not an ascending process. It's we are giving Krishna enjoyment by calling out his name, Krishna, Krishna. This is our method for giving Krishna joy, and then we receive joy. If we water the root of the tree, then we get nourished also. If we give Krishna, Vishnu enjoyment, then we receive enjoyment. And culturally, the Vaishnava culture gives Vishnu Krishna enjoyment by celebrating Matsya Leela, Varaha Leela, Nrsimha Leela, Ram Leela, all Krishna Leelas, so many Leelas, Ras Leela, all kinds of Leelas. So this is the theme of Vaishnava culture, and this is what I'm trying to say in my book. And how does it recruit young people? Because ISKCON is the best representative of the culture for you to actually learn the Vaishnava culture, celebration of Leela and Nama. So you must come and stay with us for a few months or a few years, perhaps. I've gone over time. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Is there any brief question? I prefer the hard questions, something that will attack, I'm prepared. I've been meditating on these. I pace back and forth thinking, okay, what will they say? They'll say this, so I'll put this in my book as a refutation. So please, as we say, we have an expression, give it your best. No? Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
My question is, why the all Godhead are born in Indian subcontinental? Why the all Godheads are born in Indian subcontinental areas?
The gods are born in India?
Continental area.
I don't know. Why are Jesus and Muhammad born in the Middle East? But okay, why is it that none of the prophets are born in America? That's not a very good answer. If you refer to Krishna as a prophet, of course, I don't think you are because you have tilak, but Krishna is not a prophet. He appears in India. He appears in Vrindavan. But he is unborn. He is in Krishna Loka. And Vishnu is also in Vaikuntha. He appears. And Matsya avatar, Kurma avatar, these avatars, they're not born in India, they appear in other places. The Kurma avatar appeared in this ocean that produced Lakshmi and Dhanvantari, so many. So why do the acharyas or the saints appear? Vyasdev and Narad Muni doesn't. Yes, he was born as a maidservant's son, appears to have been born in India, but he travels throughout the universe, and he was born from Brahma. Brahma was his father. So he appears not to have been born in India. So not everyone, but yes, it appears that Indian people are especially graced with so many wonderful, wonderful acharyas and avatars and bhaktas, sadhus. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu urged Bharata Bhumi. Yes, see, I don't remember that because I wasn't born in Bharata, so it's not my responsibility. It's your responsibility, but then Srila Prabhupada came to the West and he made it our responsibility also. So in that sense, I'm also from Bharat. In the greater sense, this planet is Bharat. So, yes, India is especially graced. Vrindavan is here, Ayodhya is here, so many places. Ganga Mata is here, Jamna is here. So all these rivers, all these sacred places. So the Indian people should be embarrassed to import things. Marxism is an importation. Democracy is imported from Greece and America and other countries. Western science, technology is imported. All of these, pratyaksha science, I mean just science means knowledge. Veda means knowledge. So that's the original science. This modern pratyaksha, I call it. Pratyaksha means only based on, it's empirical science, if you know that meaning of that word. Observational. So these things have been imported from the West. The scientific revolution was European revolution, science. In Muslim countries, they had their own scientific revolution. So we're not talking about that. European, all these things have been imported. Look at the cars on the streets. So many are imported. So why, when you, as you say, rightly, that why are these born? To give the mercy to Indian people. I don't like the word Indian, I like South Asian because it includes Nepal, Sri Lanka, and maybe Bhutan, all these, I'm missing some, but Afghanistan, Draupadi was born in Afghanistan, not Draupadi, I mean Gandhari was born in Afghanistan, and then in ancient times it extended further, and then we learned that the entire planet was Bharat. So, just to say India, India all the time, Indian culture, people ask me all the time, oh, you like Indian culture? Well, no. I like Bharatiya culture. So, I like the Vaishnava culture. So, yes, the mercy of Krishna, of great sages, is here in India. And Prabhupada emphasized that. Why import all these things? India has everything. What are these things? These things are destroying the world. The European culture is destroying the world. Why import these things? They don't, socialism, basically, it's atheistic democracy. People try to create their own social reality without acknowledging God. It's based on secularism. There's some nod to God. Science is independent from God, but without values. So without values, dharma, values means dharma. Without values, destroying the earth. Capitalism, greed. So all of these institutions, humanism, in the West, humanism, and part of humanism is the Western woke culture. You have to have equality for women, for all races, for all people, for all genders, for sort of any gender abnormality. So all of these institutions, all of these sort of philosophies, ideas, they're not actually culturally based, as Prabhupada uses the word here. They're not based on any kind of a culture with a divine perspective. And I don't care if that divine perspective is impersonalism, Mayavadi, if it's primitive African culture, whatever culture. These institutions are not based on any type of superior influence, just concoctions, humanism. They're devoted to humans. But what about nature? What about the higher nature? What about the Supreme Personality of Godhead? No. So Indians should not take these and import these. They should depend on the mercy of all of these great sages. Wonderful, wonderful knowledge, the Vedas, and still intact. In Iran, they had a wonderful religion. The Parsis had Zoroastrian religion with Zend-Avesta, Avestan, and a lot of their literatures have been destroyed, and the Muslims pushed a few remaining to India. So Islam and Christianity, they're Middle Eastern religions, they're a little shallow, with all due respect. And India has a tremendous, Buddhism has been replaced in China and Southeast Asia by socialism, communism, Islam. So Vaishnava culture is intact, the thousands of years old Vaishnava culture. And it shouldn't be destroyed by an upstart European culture. Prabhupada said a few times that Islam is not the enemy. He was on a morning walk. He said, Islam came, they destroyed some things. They caused some basically physical problems. But the Western culture is an infection that is destroying the culture. Western ideas, we don't want to call it a culture. These Western ideas are an infection destroying the culture. So this other idea that modern Hindus have, that, oh, Islam is the problem. No. The problem is the infection of materialism. Yo bhunkte stena ivasa. No thought that there is a higher order. I don't care even if it's impersonalism. No thought. So that's the enemy. And that's what I'm attacking in this book. I do my best, but I didn't have Bhaktirupa's help, so I think it's pretty good, but it would be excellent if Bhaktirupa had helped me. Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Dayananda Prabhu ki jai. So after Prasadam at 10 o'clock in the sannyasi room which we have at the BMS floor, Prabhuji will be available and he'll be sharing some Srila Prabhupada anecdotes and also any questions you might have. So it's a open forum. Those of you who have time after Prasadam, you can gather there and have interaction with Prabhuji, after which he will leave for Mumbai back. So let us thank Sri Dayananda Prabhu for his wonderful presentation, how to move from modern global culture to the Vaishnava culture, and for his association. Let's thank him by loudly once chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra.